With every passing year, we get a chance to watch the world compete for the World Series. And since 1955, a player has been named World Series MVP at the end. It's always an unlikely source will rise to the occasion and become an October legend. So let's look at how every World Series MVP was won.
Totally sports-esque. Major League.
The 1955 World Series is memorable for many reasons, but one of those is that the first World Series MVP was given out. For the 5th time in 9 years, the Dodgers are facing the Yankees in the World Series. And the previous 4 times, the Yankees won. And it didn't look like this time would be much different, as the Yankees won the first 2 games at home. But back in Brooklyn, Johnny Padres put them back in the series with a complete game and an 8-3 win. And things would go all the way to a Game 7, with the home team winning every game. And Dodgers fans' hopes weren't too high, but Padres would deliver the performance of his life. With help from a Sandy Morris catch, Padres threw a complete game shutout, as the Dodgers finally topped the Yankees with a 2-0 win to win their first and only title in Brooklyn. Padres picking up 2 wins, including the Game 7 shutout, as he won the first ever World Series MVP. Moving to 1956, it was the same matchup again, with another historic pitching performance. Don Larsen took the mound for the first time in Game 2, and he didn't last past the second, giving up 4 unearned runs. But things changed when he took the mound in Game 5, as that day, he was perfect. With Mickey Mantle's saving catch, he recorded a strikeout during the game and threw the first and only perfect game in World Series history. The Yankees ended up winning the series in 7 games, and it would have been interesting if Larsen still would have got MVP if the Yankees lost, but we'll never know. And continuing the trend that will only continue after, here's another pitcher MVP in another series against the Yankees. The World Series came to Milwaukee for the first time, and facing the powerhouse New York Yankees, Lou Burdett started games 2, 5, and 7, and he won all 3 for the Braves. After giving up his second run in the third of Game 2, he didn't give up a run for 25 innings, while out-dueling postseason veterans like Whitey Ford and Don Larsen, arguably the greatest pitching performance in a World Series, as he practically won them 3 games, with 2 of those coming on the road. There was a rematch the next year between the Yankees and Braves, and another pitcher took the MVP. Unlikely after Game 2, Bob Charlie got just 1 out in the Braves' 7-run first, before he would end up losing to Lou Burdett. But Charlie bounced back with a complete game shutout in Game 5, then he came out of the bullpen the very next day to record the final outs of Game 6. And on just 2 days rest, he would start Game 7, and he went 6 2/3 innings, allowing just 2 runs, as the Yankees clinched another title. In the series, he went 2-1 with a 2.76 ERA and 17 strikeouts, earning World Series MVP and getting redemption for the Yankees after losing to the Braves the previous year. In 1959 saw the Dodgers make the World Series for the first time in Los Angeles, going up against the Chicago White Sox. Called up mid-season, Larry Sherry became the hero, appearing in 4 of the 6 games, as he went 2-0 with 2 saves, allowing just 1 earned run in 12.2 innings for an ERA of .71, as the Dodgers won their second title in 6 games. The year of 1960 gave us one of the most interesting MVPs of all time, and that lies in the fact that Bobby Richardson was on the team that lost. In the series between the Yankees and Pirates, the Yankees were dominant in the 3 games they won, but obviously, they needed 4. But during the 7 games, Richardson hit .367 with a grand slam and 12 RBIs, that being a record until Freddie Freeman just tied it in 2024. And the reason Richardson ended with MVP is the writers had to submit their votes before the start of the 8th inning of Game 7, when the Yankees still had the lead. This before the Pirates came back and took the lead. Then the Yankees would tie the game in the top of the 9th, before Bill Mazeroski hit his famous walk-off home run. Mazeroski probably would have been MVP, as Richardson is still the only MVP on a losing team, as the criteria and timing would later change. While Richardson broke the streak of pitcher MVPs, it did not last long. The Yankees were back again in 61, and their longtime ace was the hero. Whitey Ford started 2 games of the series, and he was virtually untouchable, throwing 14 scoreless innings while allowing just 7 hits and striking out 8. His pair of shutout wins not only earned him World Series MVP, but also extended his streak of 32 consecutive scoreless innings in World Series play, a mark that still stands, as the Yankees would beat the Reds in 5 games. The Yankees were up against the other former team from New York in 1962 in the San Francisco Giants, and it was another redemption story. After being remembered for surrendering Bill Mazeroski's walk-off home run, Rolf Terry came back 2 years later to write his own story of triumph. He would start 3 games against the Giants, posting a record of 2-1 with a 1.8 ERA, while striking out 16 in 25 innings, including the decisive Game 7 at Candlestick Park, where he would throw a complete game shutout, sealing a 1-0 Yankee win, clinching another title for the Yankees, as Terry took home MVP. And the next year, the Yankees and Dodgers faced the first time on opposite sides of the country, and in a year where Sandy Koufax won Cy Young and MVP, he would take it all home. Facing the mighty Yankees, he struck out 15 batters in Game 1, a World Series record at the time, and he would finish with 2 complete game victories, allowing just 3 runs, and striking out 23 in 18 innings, leading the Dodgers to a 4-game sweep, and earning Koufax's first World Series MVP. and the most dominant right-hander at the time of Bob Gibson got his chance to shine against the Yankees the next year. Known for his fierce competitiveness, he would start their games, and he went 2-1 with an ERA of 3 while striking out 31 in 27 innings, including a heroic complete game win in Game 7 on just 2 days rest. His catcher Tim McCarver hit .478 in the series, but no one was going to top Gibson, as the Yankees' multiple-decade run was coming to an end. But in '65, the Dodgers were still in the midst of their run, and so was Sandy Koufax. After skipping Game 1 to observe Yom Kippur, he came back to start their games, as he threw 2 shutouts, including a 3-hit masterpiece in Game 7 against the Minnesota Twins on just 2 days rest, just like Bob Gibson. As in the series, he went 2-1 with a .38 ERA while striking out 29 in 24 innings, as he became the first to win 2 World Series MVPs, accolades that gave him a Hall of Fame induction despite a short career. In 1966, the Dodgers' run in the run of pitcher MVPs would come to an end. After being traded to the Orioles, Frank Robinson became the first to win MVP in both leagues, and he delivered when it mattered most. He hit .286 with 2 home runs and 3 RBIs, including a decisive homer off Don Drysdale in Game 4 that would seal Baltimore's 4-game sweep. The entire Orioles pitching staff could have won the award, throwing 3 shutouts against the Dodgers, as their run of dominance was just beginning. And just like Sandy Koufax, Bob Gibson got his second run in 1967. Facing the impossible dream Red Sox, in a 7-game series, he won a perfect 3-0 with an ERA of 1, tossing 3 complete games and striking out 26 in 27 innings, capping it all for the Game 7 gem, where he would add a home run of his own to clinch a title in Fenway Park. So the first 2 to win 2 World Series MVPs were the most dominant pitchers of a time of dominant pitching. And the culmination of this era was the year of the pitcher in 1968, and it was seen in the World Series between the Tigers and the Cardinals. With 2 pitcher MVPs in Bob Gibson and Denny McLain, it was actually Mickey Lolich who was the hero. Gibson looked to be on his way to his 3rd MVP, but the Tigers forced a Game 7 after being down 3-1. And then, Mickey Lolich outpitched Bob Gibson in the Game 7 on the road. And over the series, the lefty had 3 complete game victories, including the Game 7 triumph on 2 days rest, finishing with a 1.67 ERA and 21 strikeouts in 27 innings. A fitting end to this era, as the mound would be lowered after the season, and there were more options than just the pitcher for World Series MVP. With the NL and ALCS being added to the playoffs, the World Series winner and MVP was a surprise in 1969 with the Miracle Mets. Facing the heavily favored Orioles, the midseason acquisition Don Clendenin provided the power spark the Mets would need, hitting .357 with 3 home runs and 4 RBIs in the 5-game upset as the Mets won their first title. Clendenin was a journeyman player, but he really represented the Miracle Mets as a whole. And to start the 70s, the Orioles returned again in the battle of Frank Robinson's teams. It was the other Robinson who led the Orioles. Along with making one of the greatest plays in World Series history, Brooks Robinson hit .429 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs, almost single-handedly deciding the series. The Orioles winning their 2nd title in 5 games over the Reds, who would continue to stay in the mix. The Orioles would return again the next season in '71, facing a Pirates team led by Roberto Clemente, who would have his iconic performance. Along with making one of the greatest throws you'll ever see, he hit .414, and he would hit the deciding home run in Game 7, to lead the Pirates past the Orioles with a 2-1 win. This would end the Orioles' run for the moment, in what was Clemente's last World Series appearance, as he became the first foreign-born player to win World Series MVP. The Reds would return in '72 against the next dynasty in the Oakland Athletics. And in the case of a player really coming out of nowhere, after hitting just 5 home runs all regular season, Gene Tenace slugged 4 in the 7-game series, tying a World Series record at the time, also driving in 9 runs and hitting .348, even receiving a death threat from a Reds fan during the series, as the A's won their first title in Oakland in 7 games. The A's were back the next year against the Mets, who won just 82 games, and it's here where Mr. October really began making his mark, as Reggie Jackson hit .310 with a home run, also driving in 6 and scoring 6 runs, hitting the home run in Game 7, which was just the A's 2nd home run of the series, as they won in 7 games for a 2nd time, Reggie becoming the 2nd player after Sandy Koufax to win League and World Series MVP in the same year. And the A's were there for the 3rd time in a row in '74, and this time against in-state competition the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it was a reliever who put pitchers back on track, this time being Raleigh Fingers. He appeared in 4 of the 5 games, posting a 1.93 ERA and earning a win and 2 saves, as the A's won their 3rd straight title. And funny enough, the Dodgers' Mike Marshall became the first reliever to win Cy Young that year, though it was a different time, as during the regular season, Marshall appeared in 106 games. The A's dynasty came to an end, and gave way for the next one. In one of the greatest World Series ever, the Red Sox were looking to break their curse, but the Big Red Machine was in their way. The Reds' franchise cornerstone for over a decade in Pete Rose would lead the way, hitting .370 with 10 hits and 2 RBIs, being intentionally walked before Joe Morgan hit the go-ahead single in the 9th of Game 7 that the Reds won to finally get over the hump. And the Reds would return the next season, and the other main piece of Manny and Johnny Bench had one of the best performances of all time. With the Yankees making their return, he hit .533 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs, both of his home runs coming in Game 4, as the Reds swept the Yankees, going 7-0 in the playoffs, the culmination of the Big Red Machine, and only further solidifying Johnny Bench. But the Yankees returned in '77 against a familiar foe in the Dodgers, and this was really when Mr. October was born, and the moment came in Game 6, as Reggie Jackson hit 3 consecutive home runs on 3 consecutive pitches, sealing the Yankees' first title since 1962. And for the series, he hit .450 with 5 home runs and 8 RBIs, the most home runs in the World Series at the time. And in a throwback to the 50s, the Dodgers and Yankees met again in '78 with the same result. Reggie Jackson would deliver the final blow again in Game 6 with a 2-run home run, but the MVP went to the one Red Sox fans nicknamed Bucky Dent, as he hit .417 with 7 RBIs and numerous clutch hits. Davey Lopes was arguably worthy of MVP, hitting 3 home runs with 7 RBIs what the lineup was lacking, but the Yankees beat the Dodgers once again. And the final year of the '70s would see a rematch from the early part. The We Are Family Pirates finally got past the Reds, and they were up against their 1971 opponent, the Baltimore Orioles. And again it went 7 games. And from the Baltimore crowd, it was Willie Stargell who provided the go-ahead run with a double, as the Pirates took the game in the series with a 4-1 win. Stargell would then be named MVP, after the Pirates captained at .400 with 3 home runs and 7 RBI. He also became the first player to win LCS and World Series MVP in the same season, only adding to a Hall of Fame career. And aside from the 2013 wildcard game, this is the Pirates' most recent playoff series win. 2 teams who were so close to reaching the World Series but never could in the late '70s were the Phillies and the Royals. But they got there in 1980, and it was the Phillies franchise cornerstone Mike Schmidt who was ready for the moment, hitting .381 with 2 home runs with 7 RBIs. Schmidt's Game 6 2-run single was the decider, helping the Phillies win their first World Series title, the last of the original 16 teams to do so. Willie Aikens had one of the best performances of a losing player, hitting .400 with 8 RBIs while hitting 4 home runs. But he could not beat out Schmidt. And interestingly, Tug McGraw won the Babe Ruth Award for the best postseason player over Schmidt. 1981 brought an interesting one, as in the strike-shortened season with expanded playoffs, it was the Yankees and Dodgers who met again. And after the Dodgers won 4 straight after losing the first 2, 3 players shared the MVP. Ron Cey hit .350 and provided key hits in Game 3, Pedro Guerrero drove in 5 runs in the clinch in Game 6, and Steve Yeager, the veteran catcher, hit 2 home runs and drove in 4. Together, they helped get revenge on the Yankees, and were the first co-MVPs. And though division opponents now, the Cardinals and Brewers met in the 1982 World Series. And with 2 scrappy teams, it would go to a decisive Game 7 that the Cardinals won, with catcher Darryl Porter hitting .286 with a home run with 5 RBIs, including the go-ahead hit in Game 7, becoming the second to win NLCS and World Series MVP. Ultimately one of the weaker MVPs by performance, but a representation of the Cardinal team that knew how to win. The 4 World Series wins in a row by NL teams is still a record, and the Orioles were looking to end that against the Phillies in '83. And it was another catcher Rick Dempsey who led the way. Known more for his defense than his offense, he surprised everyone by hitting .385 with 4 doubles and a home run against the Phillies. His home run coming in the decisive Game 5, where Eddie Murray finally woke up as the Orioles won their most recent title. 1984 saw another team making their first appearance against a 1968 World Series participant, and after splitting the first 2, the Tigers came home, and they took 3 straight against the Padres. Kirk Gibson had a great series with his famous home run in Game 5, but it was Alan Trammell who took home MVP, hitting .450 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs, with both of his home runs coming in Game 4. And just like in 1980, a different player won the Babe Ruth Award in Jack Morris, as the Tigers won their most recent title. The Royals were back for an all-Missouri World Series, and after a controversial call in Game 6 that led to a Royals comeback, the Cy Young winner Brett Saberhagen took them out in Game 7, and he threw a 5-hit shutout against the Cardinals. And over the series, Saberhagen went 2-0 with a .5 ERA with 10 strikeouts, becoming the 4th to win Cy Young and World Series MVP in the same season, as the Royals won their first title. The Red Sox were back in '86 against the New York Mets, who were coming in with 108 wins. And the Red Sox looked poised to break the curse until Bill Buckner infamously missed a ground ball in a comeback win for the Mets in Game 6. And the next night, Ray Knight, after scoring the winning run in Game 6, had the series-winning home run. And over the series, he hit .391 with 5 RBIs, as the Mets won their most recent title in one of the greatest series ever. The Cardinals returned again the next year to face another Midwestern opponent, the Twins, who were looking for their first title in Minnesota. The Twins, who won just 85 games, forced a Game 7, and it was Frank Viola on the mound, who had some early troubles, but he settled down, and he pitched 8 innings, giving up 2, as the Twins won their first title, Viola winning MVP despite having a 3.72 ERA after a rough start in Game 5. But with a Twins team that came out of nowhere, the Game 7 performance on short rest was enough. The Dodgers returned in 1988 to face a budding powerhouse in the Oakland A's. The series is most remembered for Kirk Gibson's home run in Game 1, but the real star of the season was Orel Hersheiser, finishing the season throwing 59 scoreless innings. He continued here, going 2-0 with an ERA of 1 while striking out 17, including a complete game win in Game 5 to cap off an absolute dream season for him and the Dodgers. The A's returned again the next year to face another California team in the San Francisco Giants, and it was the tragic Loma Prieta earthquake that would overshadow the series, causing a 10-day delay before Game 3, but the A's were ready, and so was Dave Stewart. After his Game 1 shutout, he would pick up another win in Game 3 as he went 2-0 with a 1.69 ERA as the A's swept the Giants for their most recent title and their last in Oakland. Just like the 70s, the A's won 3 straight pennants, and they looked to get at least 2 World Series titles as they were big favorites against the Cincinnati Reds. But the Reds were ready. Jose Rio was untouchable as the Reds' right hand went 2-0 with an ERA of .59. Including 8 shutout innings in the clinch in Game 4, as the Reds swept the A's for their most recent title. Billy Hatch had a real case as well, with a record 7 consecutive hits and a .750 series average, but you couldn't go wrong either way. 2 teams who were in last year before met the next year in the Twins and the Braves, and in my opinion, it was the greatest World Series of all time. With incredible performances from many, none was more memorable than Jack Morris. In Game 7, the veteran right-hander threw a 10-inning shutout to beat the Braves 1-0, completing a masterful series where he went 2-0 with a 1.17 ERA. That performance is almost the sole reason he is in the Hall of Fame, which is still debatable, but it always shows what a postseason showing can do. The World Series went to Canada for the first time in 1992 and saw the Braves make a return. And in a back-and-forth series, the Blue Jays were able to win the first title in 6 games despite being outscored. And the MVP for the first title won over the border was Pat Borders, the catcher at .450 with a home run and 2 RBIs, becoming the first catcher to win since 1983. The World Series remained in Canada in '93, and it again ended in 6 games. And of course, it ended with Joe Carter hitting a walk-off home run to win the World Series. But he was not the MVP. Instead, it went to Paul Mulder. After an incredible performance in the '82 series with the Brewers, he was even better here, hitting .500 with 2 home runs, scoring 8 runs, and recording 10 total bases in Game 6 alone, getting a much-deserved ring in a Hall of Fame career. There was no World Series in 1994 because of the strike, so we moved to '95, which saw the Braves return again against the Cleveland Indians, who were making their long-awaited return, and their high-powered offense was stifled by the Braves' elite pitching, led by Tom Glavine, who went 2-0 with a 1.29 ERA, including 8 one-hit shutout innings in Game 6 to clinch the Braves' first championship in Atlanta. And the Braves were back once again in '96, and so were the Yankees. And before they had Mariano Rivera, they had John Wetteland. After losing the first 2 at home, the Yankees won the next 4 as John Wetteland saved all 4 Yankee wins, allowing just 1 run across 5 appearances. The first relief pitcher to win since Raleigh Fingers in '74, and not the last. And in '97, it was the Indians returning against a team just 5 years into existence in the Florida Marlins. In a real back-and-forth series, the Indians held their 9th inning Game 7 lead slip away, then the 11th, Edgar Renteria hit a single at the middle to win the World Series. But the one who got them there was Livan Hernandez. Already winning NLCS MVP thanks to a massive strike zone, the rookie went 2-0 with a 2.57 ERA, 19 strikeouts, including a game-win gem and a gutsy performance in Game 5. The Yankees returned in '98, and they wouldn't leave for a while. They were up against the Padres hoping to get their first title, but the 114-win Yankees were just too good, going on to sweep the Padres in 4 games. Scott Brosius hit .471 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs, including a clutch Game 3 performance with 2 home runs that broke the series open, giving the Yankees their 2nd title in 3 years. And the decade finished with familiar faces in the Yankees and the Braves. And again, the Yankees were too much, sweeping the Braves this time to go back-to-back and win their 12th straight World Series game. And it was Mariano Rivera who didn't allow a run in 4 appearances, saving 2 games, and winning Game 3, where Chad Curtis hit a walk-off home run to become the 3rd reliever to win World Series MVP. In the start of the 21st century, it was an all-New York matchup, and the Yankees continued their World Series winning ways, winning the first game in walk-off fashion, then winning the series in 5. And it was Derek Jeter who added to his resume as he hit .409 with 2 home runs, including an important leadoff home run in Game 4, winning MVP over Roger Clemens, who was also close to sawing off Mike Piazza's leg. And for the 4th time in a row, the Yankees won the World Series in 2001, and they were up against the Diamondbacks in just their 3rd year of existence, and in one of the greatest World Series ever, with multiple dramatic home runs and walk-offs. Luis Gonzalez would hit a bloop single to win the series in Game 7, and it was the two pitchers who pitched for the Diamondbacks in Game 7 who took home co-MVPs in Curt Schilling and Reggie Jackson, combining for 4 wins and a 1.48 ERA, with Johnson coming out of the bullpen on a no-days rest in Game 7, as the two became the second co-MVPs. And there was another classic series the next year in 2002, in an all-California matchup between the Giants and the Angels. And with the Giants looking bound to capture the first title in San Francisco, and Barry Bonds likely to win MVP, the Angels used the power of the rally monkey, and they came back from 5 down in the 7th at Game 6, with Troy Glaus hitting the go-ahead double. As over the series, he hit 385 with 3 home runs and 8 RBIs, as he would win MVP, and the Angels won their only title in 7 games. And though they took a year off, the Yankees were back in 2003 against the Florida Marlins, and it was a 23-year-old who would shock everyone, and that was Josh Beckett. He lost Game 3, but he pitched into the 8th with 10 strikeouts. Then in Game 6 at Yankee Stadium, he would throw a complete game shutout to win the World Series and win MVP. The Marlins' second title, with both their MVPs coming from young pitchers. The Red Sox made their first appearance since '86 in 2004, after making their 3-0 comeback against the Yankees, and they were up against the St. Louis Cardinals, making their first appearance since '87. And the Red Sox were on an absolute roll and were not to be stopped, sweeping the series for their first title in 86 years. And it was the all-time postseason home run leader Manny Ramirez who would take home the MVP, hitting .412 the home run and 4 RBIs over the 4 games. And the White Sox were looking to end an even longer drought the next year, while the Astros were making their first appearance. And like the Red Sox, it was a clean sweep, but every game was close. And Jermaine Dye set the tone from the get-go, hitting a home run in the first inning of Game 1, as he went on to hit .438 with 3 RBIs in the series, including the only RBI in Game 4, to win World Series MVP, in the White Sox most recent title. And the Cardinals returned in 2006 against the Tigers, making their first appearance since 1984. And as the Cardinals took advantage of the Tigers' errors, they would complete the gentleman sweep over the Tigers with an unlikely MVP in David Eckstein, who hit .364 with 8 hits and 4 RBIs, along with huge doubles in Game 4 and 5. With multiple future Hall of Famers on the Cardinal team, as often seen, it was an unlikely source proving to be the most important. The Red Sox were back in 2007 against the Rockies, who were making their first World Series appearance. And again, it was one-sided. The Rockies were simply overmatched, and just like 2006, there was an unlikely MVP in Mike Lowell. He hit .400 with a home run and 4 RBIs, while scoring 6 runs, including a pivotal Game 4 blast, as he became the second Puerto Rican-born player to win. Another team made their first appearance the next year in the Tampa Bay Rays, and they were facing the Phillies, who were returning for the first time since '93, and it was Cole Hamels who led the way, picking up a win in Tampa in Game 1 after giving up 1 over 7. He then pitched 6, giving up 2 in Game 5, and came out after a rain delay and a tie, as the Phillies would later pull ahead and win their second title, as Hamels became the 5th to win NLCS and World Series MVP. The Phillies won back-to-back pennants to set up a matchup with the Yankees in 2009, and after losing Game 1, the Yankees won the next 3 before dropping Game 5. But in Game 6, Hideki Matsui tied a World Series record by driving in 6 in one game, as the Yankees went on to win, as Matsui hit an incredible .615 with 3 home runs and 8 RBIs. The first Japanese-born player to win, in a series where Chase Utley would tie Reggie Jackson with 5 home runs. But the Yankees' most recent World Series win would give him the edge. Another team was making their first appearance in 2010 in the Texas Rangers, and they were up against the Giants, who were hoping to end a long drought. And what they needed to get over the hump was a veteran. Already ending 1 World Series 13 years earlier, Edgar Renteria was the hero for the Giants, as he hit .412, 2 home runs, and 6 RBIs, including a 3-run home run off Cliff Lee in the decisive Game 5, as the Giants won their first title since 1954, when they were in New York. The Rangers, however, returned the next year against the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Rangers looked like they were about to capture their first title, with 2 on the bottom of the 9th at Game 6 with 2 strikes, but then David Freese hit the game-tying triple. Then after Lance Berkman tied things in the 10th, Freese would hit a walk-off home run in the 11th inning. Then the next night, he had the go-ahead double, hitting .348 with 5 doubles and 7 RBIs to become the 6th to win NLCS and World Series MVP in the Cardinals' most recent title. And after a year off, the Giants returned against the returning Tigers, and the eventual MVP made his case right away, as Pablo Sandoval hit 3 home runs in Game 1, joining Babe Ruth, Reggie Jackson, and Albert Pujols the previous year as the only ones to do so in the World Series. As the Giants went on to sweep the series, as Sandoval hit .500 and drove in 4 during the series. And after their year off, the Cardinals returned for a 2004 rematch, and it was simply one of the greatest World Series performances ever. After going down to 1, the Red Sox won the last 3, thanks in main part to David Ortiz, who hit 688 in the 6-game series, hitting 2 home runs and driving in 6, even after being intentionally walked 4 times, as the Red Sox won the series to win their 3rd title in 9 years. The Giants took another year off then returned, and we saw another historic individual performance. The Royals came out of nowhere to make the first World Series appearance since '85, but they were slowed by Madison Bumgarner, The Royals got a run off him in Game 1 thanks to a Sal Perez home run, but for the other 20 innings, Bumgarner did not give up a run, throwing a shutout in Game 5, then on 2 days rest, throwing 5 shutout innings and 1 run Game 7, as he became the 7th to win NLCS and World Series MVP, as the Giants won their 3rd in 5 years. But the Royals were right back the next year against the New York Mets, and the only man to ever score against Madison Bumgarner in the World Series would lead them to the top. Salvador Perez hit .364, 2 doubles and 2 RBIs, catching 51 innings in 5 games, as the Royals took the series in 5, becoming the first catcher to win World Series MVP since Pat Borders in 1992. And spoiler alert, he is still the most recent catcher. And returning for the first time since 1945 the next year was the Chicago Cubs, looking to end a 108-year drought against a team with the second longest drought. Despite being down 3-1, the Cubs forced a Game 7, and after a rain delay, things went to extra innings. And the 10th, it was the then former Royal and Ben Zobrist who hit the go-ahead double, as the Cubs then broke the curse of the Billy Goat 108 years in the making. Zobrist hitting .357 with 2 doubles and 2 RBIs in the series as he won MVP, helping teams break droughts in back-to-back years. And the trend of new teams or long-awaiting teams continued the next year, as the Astros made their second trip against the Dodgers in their first appearance since 1988. In a great series no matter how you look at it, there were great performances all over, but none bigger than George Springer, who tied Chase Utley and Reggie Jackson with 5 home runs in the series, but none bigger than his 2-run home run in Game 7, as the Astros would go on to win the first title, as Springer hit .379 with 7 RBIs. Mired with some controversy because of the sign stealing, though it was not shown that the Astros were using the system in the World Series. But the Dodgers returned the next year, and against arguably one of the best teams ever, the Red Sox found an unlikely source just like 2007 in Steve Pearce. The midseason pickup hit .333 with 3 home runs and 8 RBIs, including a game-tying home run in Game 4 and 2 home runs in the Game 5 clincher. Pearce was another journeyman-type player, never making the All-Star team, as he retired a Red Sox legend the next year, with the team facing some eventual controversy in the same vein as the Astros, but definitely less talked about. However, the Astros were back in 2019 with one of the most complete teams of all time, and for the first time ever, the Washington Nationals made it to the World Series. The Nationals surprised everyone in Game 1, then the next night, the franchise's first real star in Steven Strasburg pitched a gem to give the Nats a 2-0 lead. They actually lost all 3 at home, then with the season on the line, on the road, Strasburg came through again, pitching into the 9th, giving up just 2, as the Nationals forced a Game 7, that they would go on to win for their first and only title. Strasburg went 2-0 with a 2.51 ERA in the series, striking out 14 across 14.1 innings, as through the hard times, he came through when it mattered most. The Dodgers returned to start the 20s against the Rays, who were making their second appearance, and a limited crowd was there to see it. But those who were saw Corey Seager continue his postseason greatness, going 8 for 20 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs, including the go-ahead hit in Game 6, as the Dodgers won their first title since '88 in Corey Seager's Future Stadium, as he became the 8th to win NLCS and World Series MVP. The Astros followed the Giants by taking a year off between trips, and in 21, they were up against another NL East opponent in the Braves, who were making their first appearance in the 21st century. And right away, the former Cub World Series champion Jorge Soler made his presence known, as he hit the first over-the-wall leadoff home run in World Series history, and that was just the start. He had a go-ahead pinch hit home run in Game 4, then he hit the series-clinching home run in Game 6, reminiscent of Albert Pujols. All 3 home runs were massive, as the Braves won their second title in Atlanta. The Astros didn't take a year off the next year, and they were up against another NL East team, the Phillies. The Phillies took a 2-1 series lead, but the Astros tied the series the next night with a combined no-hitter. Then in a great Game 5, rookie Jeremy Pena hit the go-ahead home run in the 4th inning, as they then won the series in Game 6. Jeremy Pena hitting .400 with 10 hits and great defensive plays to become the 3rd rookie to win World Series MVP. And interestingly, he is the only one to win ALCS and World Series MVP. Technically, the World Series remained in Texas for the 5th straight year, as the Rangers returned along with the Diamondbacks. And looking to go down 1-0, Corey Seager changed everything with a game-tying home run in the 9th, before Adolis Garcia would hit the walk-off home run in the 11th inning. Seager would go on to hit 3 home runs in the series, along with driving in 6, as he helped the Rangers win their first World Series title, as he joined Sandy Koufax, Bob Gibson, and Reggie Jackson as the only players with 2 World Series MVPs, all first-ballot Hall of Famers, which makes Corey Seager's case very interesting. And we move on to our last one here, and we end with the team he started with, in the Yankees and the Dodgers. Game 1 went to extras, and the Yankees were 1 out away until Freddie Freeman hit the first walk-off grand slam in World Series history, and he would proceed to go on an absolute tear. He would homer in 4 straight games, and he would tie Bobby Richardson in 1960 with 12 RBIs. The difference is that series went 7, while the Dodgers won this series in 5, in one of the best individual World Series performances of all time. So now we wait for who will be added to the list this year. And as seen, it will either be the most obvious player or someone who will come out of nowhere. So either a powerhouse name on the Blue Jays will win, or one of those underdog scrappy Dodgers will take the trophy home.